All right, welcome. My name is Theo Fortstiegler. I am the graduate teaching assistant for the D.ODC program here at the Schmidthorst College of Business at Bowling Green State University. Thank you for joining us for our open house today. It is cold in Northwest Ohio, but thankfully warmer than it has been the last few days, which I'm excited about because the car started right up and all that good stuff. I am honored to have here with me today a couple of folks that are near and dear to the D.ODC program. I have two of our faculty members, and Dr. Francis Baldwin and Dr. Carol Gorelick, that are here that I think are going to be happy to answer some questions as they come up later. And I also have with me Tami Norris, who I'll introduce in a little more detail here in a moment. She's going to share a bit of her story in general and her story with this program in particular. And want to just invite and welcome those of you that are here for, I want to learn more. I want to hear about this thing that you guys are talking about, this idea of thought leadership and what a program like the D.ODC at BGSU might bring to that. So if you don't mind, I'm going to invite you to just introduce yourself, maybe share where you call home. And if there's a question or query that you bring today to this open house that we could answer for you, and that could be something specific to the program or just a general question that you have about the context and field that we are in. And Liz, since you hopped on first, and I had a good chuckle before we went on record, if you will. I told Liz that with the screen name that she has, I might be having to, move my mouth around because I'm salivating thinking about cheesecake now. But Liz, over to you again. I'll put this maybe in the chat. The request is that you just share your name, that you share where you call home, and a question that you bring. And I'm going to invite you to. I'm going to consider for us that we use Boggle rules. I won't enforce them, but so if somebody has a question, you're like, oh, I had the same question. Maybe think of a different one. But if you had the same question, that might be good to know as well.
Okay. Good morning again. I'm Liz Field, and I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, and currently in the MBLI program at Northern Kentucky University. And I don't have any questions at this time. I was given a lot of information via email. And I've also been stalking some of the professors on LinkedIn and reading everything they post and all the information. So I feel really good about the information that I have so far. So no questions at this time.
Okay. Can I toss it over to you, Chaz?
Of course, as soon as I unmute. Okay. Hi, my name's Chaz Ross Monroe. I live in Tampa, Florida. So even though I'm wearing a sweater today because it's actually a little chilly here for us, but I don't even want to say what it is.
Don't rub it in.
I'm not going to rub it in today. So I guess my question really, or like I have questions like what topics, especially for the people that teach courses, like what are your favorite topics to teach? Why? How did you get into that? I also want to know what really differentiates this program from other programs that are kind of similar in your opinion. So I've heard some others, but I would love to hear what you guys have to say about that. So those are my questions so far. I might have more.
No, I couldn't get to the unmute button. Thank you. So I'll try to track those a little bit in the chat, so maybe we can come back to the ones that we have forgotten about from earlier. Please feel free, if as any of us speak, if a question comes up, unmute yourself and say hello. This is the question that I have, or put it in the chat as you see fit. This time is really Liz, Jennifer, and Chaz, for the three of you to answer as many questions as we can. So Jennifer, over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Sarah. I live in Detroit, Michigan. And my question is, does the program use an in-person, a online, or like a high flex model for the classes for students and professors?
It is a hybrid, and we can get into that in some more detail. There is very much online engagement, and then there are typically 2 residencies per semester that you would be in person and have that cohort experience. All right. Well, thank you for those questions. The reason that Tami is here is that I think of her really as somebody who is every once in a while when I speak with some of the earlier cohorts. So full disclosure, I'm a member of cohort 5. And we actually have somebody joining us that I might rope in and ask the same couple questions that I asked the 3 of you that are here already. But Tami is somebody who's been with the program since some of its earlier stages. Every once in a while, I talk to the folks in cohort 1 and 2, and sometimes some of the folks in 3, and they refer to themselves as the OGs, or they refer to themselves as the guinea pigs. I prefer OG. I think that has a little bit more, street cred in what they're bringing to it. But the program continues to evolve and adapt. We do pretty rigorous conversations with the folks in the program as well as the graduates to really learn what has landed really well and what could maybe use continued adaptation. We have gone through a couple of sort of fine-tuning steps in some of the course sequencing, for example, right? It would really have benefited me if I had this course first and that one second, and that might be applicable to me and Liz, but not so much to Jennifer and Jazz. So we try to figure out what are the best ways to make that happen. Stacy, welcome. We have started by sort of asking the folks that are here to learn a little bit more about the program to introduce themselves and share. The 3 prompts were, what's your name, where do you call home, and what is a question that you bring? So if you don't mind, I'm going to put you on the spot because Tami is here as a almost Dr. Norris to share a little bit about her journey, and she might benefit from sort of hearing what your questions are. And when you've shared, I'll actually put Whitney on the spot, who just joined. Sure. And probably goes, "What in the world? I'm on the spot already. I just came into this meeting." So Stacy, over to you.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good people. Stacy Caston. I am working from home today, and that is in Lanham, Maryland. But I work out of Vienna, Virginia, for the Federal Highway Administration. I was inclined to join this webinar, this info session, because I've been interested in pursuing a doctorate for what seems like forever. And for various reasons, I have said, now's not the time, this isn't the right place. And so I'm now revisiting again, trying to determine if this is the right time and the right place. The major question mark, and this is for me personally, is the kind of time commitment. And for me, I'm trying to figure out if I have the bandwidth to complete this sort of program and, work full time and address family needs and issues. So that's kind of what I'm looking to figure out on my own, and any sort of insights that I can receive from this meeting or subsequent meetings would be fabulous.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So I'm tracking some of the questions in the chat so we can cycle back to those that we don't answer in the course of our conversations. Whitney, you just hopped on. I'm going to put you on the spot if that's okay. We're sort of asking the folks that are here to learn more, to just briefly introduce themselves. Where do you call home, and what's maybe a question that you bring that we could answer for you today? Oh, the audio is not quite. There you are.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can. Perfect.
Good. Okay, sorry. So my name is Whitney Espinoza. I am from Toledo, Ohio, and I actually went to Bowling Green State University for my undergrad in apparel merchandising and product development. And eventually working in retail, I found out I really enjoyed HR and working with people. So I got my master's and my MBA with a concentration in HR. So I am currently at the University of Toledo as an HR consultant. And I am here today just to, get a feel for the program. I too had some questions about the time commitment and how that would work, with my current schedule. And then currently being in HR, I guess some of my, I'm wondering how I how this program could kind of help excel my career. But I was actually thinking more so of getting into academia and if that would be possible, you know, going this route into this program.
Thank you so much. Those are good and interesting questions that we'll look to dive into a little bit. So for those of you that joined a little bit later, the reason that I'm not asking Carol and Francis to introduce themselves is that Dr. Gorelick and Dr. Baldwin are faculty in our program that are here to help answer some questions and are, I think, folks that you will be interested to connect with. Even if you decide not to come to this program, I highly recommend that you at least check out what they're doing. They have both been dear mentors and inspirers. Inspirators, is that a new word? English is not my native language. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. So they're here to help answer some questions. Feel free to leverage a chat if you want to share contact information. If you have something that you want to share, this is a place for you to inquire and share with and of yourself. At this point, I'm going to invite Tami Norris to share with us a little bit. She is somebody that I've gotten to experience as a thought leader in just service and nonprofit work. She is a adjunct at Bowling Green State University, as well as a program mentor for Western Governors University. And she'll tell you a little bit more about herself and sort of her journey in general and with this program in particular. And then we'll sort of cycle back to answering some questions. As Tami speaks, if there's something that comes up for you, Tami, I'll let you share if you want to be interrupted or not, but please feel free to at least put stuff in the chat so we can cycle back and make sure that even if we can't answer a question today, that maybe I can follow up with you via email or in some way, shape, or form to make sure that you get what you need today. With that, Tami, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Can everybody hear me okay? Fantastic. Technology is fun. So welcome everyone. And what I thought I would do today is share a little bit of my journey to what took me to this program and then what has happened as a result of being in the program. And I'll frame this, Teo keeps saying soon to be Dr. Norris, and that's because I am in the middle of research right now, and we'll share a little bit of that as well. So Whitney, I could get to you in about 12 minutes from where I live. So I live by Ottawa Park, very close to the University of Toledo, and actually did my undergrad and master's work at UT. So I have a bachelor in education and master's in business administration, both from Toledo. My parents went there, my brother. We are lifelong University of Toledo fans. And you might say, well, how did you end up at Bowling Green? For those that aren't in the area, Bowling Green is about 20 minutes south of Toledo. They are arch rivals in all things sporting. And, but it was funny enough, at a UT football game, I met Dr. O'Neill and got to talking to her. We had a mutual friend, we'll say, and she started telling me about this program. And as I heard, getting a doctorate was something that had been on my mind for a long time, of getting that terminal degree. And as she described the program, it sounded like it fit. You know, there was a couple of folks wondering about how it fits time-wise. You know, it sounded like it would fit for my personality and things that I was doing in my life at that time. So the idea of a cohort-based program where you are together with a group of people throughout, that it is designed for folks who are working, and the concept of having this online with in-person components too really was attractive to me. And as Teo mentioned, the program itself, you do have a lot of online work that you do, but usually about twice a semester, you are getting together for a residency weekend. Initially, I was a little unsure about how those would work, but as I went through the program, actually became to a point where I cherish those weekends and am missing them right now for sure. So they're just to get to know a group of people like that and to begin to be on a journey like that together is so impactful and so wonderful. As he mentioned, we were part of one of the early cohorts. So I'm in cohort 2, which also has the name of the COVID cohort. because as this was all going on, we started in August of 2020. So our residency weekends initially for about the first year were also virtual. And then when we finally did get together, it was like, you know, best friends who hadn't seen each other for the longest time. There was hugs and tears and all kinds of wonderful things. It was probably one of the most awesome weekends that we had together when we finally did get together. So talking a little bit about careers and where this interweaves into things. I think that aligns with what Whitney was talking about. So, you know, a term that we use a lot in the program is a scholar practitioner, meaning that it kind of is touching upon both aspects. This idea of someone who might be in a consultant type role of organizational development, change management, that type of thing, as well as somebody that might be in an academic type role where you are providing instruction and research and all of that. And those things sometimes might seem very different, but I think in a best case scenario, they actually work well together. And how many different industries it can span across. So when I started in the program, I was working at one of our area community colleges in the workforce development division, and had been there for a long time, and enjoyed my work, enjoyed working with people. And this is where some of this idea of change and help and thinking about new ways came into play for me, is that in workforce development, we spend much time working with organizations. How can you do things smarter, better, faster, more efficiently? How do you train up employees? How do you train prospective employees to skill up and to meet what is required in our new economy? As jobs change and evolve, how do we keep up with that? So I think some of that was some of the initial interest I had. As many people in our cohort did, I'm going to say that I had some major career and life shifts, some of which when I look back now, or as I talk to, I had a life coach that I worked with throughout some of this process. She says, any one of those things would have taken someone down. You had many of them all at the same time. But there was this, and continues to be this drive of, I think that some of these things needed to happen and that this program was the catalyst for allowing them to happen. So I left my job at the community college after being there for about 17 years, took a position at an area nonprofit. So that was a huge, huge change for me. Learned a lot at that nonprofit. And now, as Teo said, my new full-time position is with Western Governors University as a program mentor, meaning that I'm working with students towards helping them be successful, just like people help me be successful in this program. So I love this evolution, and I really feel like the program itself was helpful in making that happen, or helping me realize it needed to happen. And there were other folks in our cohort that went through similar job changes and life twists and turns and what have you. The cohort aspect too helped. I'll share a couple just aside personal things. Won't go into full details, but during the 3 years of the program, I did have breast cancer and had surgery for that. So I am a survivor for that, and thank you. Look back on it now, I'm like, oh my gosh, how did I do all that? And we also gained custody of our now 3-year-old grandson. He was born at the end of our first residency weekend. And of course, me being a first-time grandma was desperate to get in the hospital, but did I mention that was COVID? So didn't matter who I knew at ProMedica, they were not letting me in to see this grandbaby that was born a month early. And he was in NICU. But during the process, as I said, he's lived with us since just before he turned 1, and we do have custody of him right now. So some really major life events. But again, the program, rather than me feeling like it was sucking more out of me. I think that cohort-based really, we came around each other. And as I learned more about being a thought leader, was able to look at these things, not how they pulled away from my life, but how they actually helped redirect me and change the way that I perceive things. And I hope too, in my new position, that as my students will face challenges, that I will be able to speak into that and be empathetic and understanding, having potentially been in some of the things that they've been through. A couple other things, talking about, so that term was resilience. That comes to mind when I think about this program and what it helped me build. Growth is another word that comes to mind that I jotted down that I think about with this program. Teo had shown, I think he sent a link in there for my TED Talk. And for me to think that I would be able to give a TED Talk, yeah, never. But here we are, and I'm a year out from the TED Talk, and this year I'm mentoring someone who is going to be doing this is TEDx BGSU, and I'm very excited to mentor someone who's going to be doing it this year. So it was a great experience, way outside of my comfort zone. I've been a teacher, but when you're teaching Excel, yeah, you can do that. At least I can on automatic. But when you have to speak to a life experience and prepare a talk like a TED Talk, very different. Also very different that this program helped me to do is to become published. So I have been published in a peer-reviewed journal. And actually thank you. Yeah, another thing I thought would never necessarily happen. My high school English teacher would be like, no, what she did, what? You know, no, this girl doesn't have that in her. But I did. And it took 18 months to get that article published. But again, thinking about the growth and resilience, I got to a point like this is going to get published. I am not stopping. And I hounded the journal, and we revision after revision, and finally got it in there. So I'm very proud of that. And I'm excited that one of these days I'll get back around to writing another one because I have more ideas that I want to bring to forward. I think another piece, and I'll pause for a moment to see what kind of topics might be out there. Another piece that became very apparent for me in this journey that helped me kind of see that in myself is that I'm not defined by what my job or job title is. So I had a period of time where I wasn't working after I was done at the nonprofit before starting up my current job, and went to a couple networking events. I thought, oh, I don't have any business cards. I'm like, okay, Vistaprint, hello. It takes 5 minutes. You know, the card talks about the things you can do. It doesn't necessarily have to be limited by the company that you work for. And so I jumped on there when I got home from that networking event, made up my own business card that just talks about things that I have passion for. And yeah, now that I can use that, I don't necessarily have to wait for one for a business. It doesn't matter because my ideas and the things that I carry forward are mine. And the business that I may work for can help me to develop further and can help me to help other people by using those skills. But again, I don't want to be limited by that. So that was a huge thought change for me for personal this year. So I'm going to pause for a moment. I have a couple other things I can mention, but I want to pause. I see some questions popping up here maybe, and see what all you have that you'd like to ask me before I talk about other things.
So if there's anything that's coming up for you right now, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'll bring some of the stuff here from the chat back for a minute.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure I could probably think of, you know, like excuses why, you know, it's like I've got a 4-year-old and I'm like, oh man, like managing this with my job and, you know, everything. And then you talk about what you battled and I'm like, I really have nothing to say now. I mean, congratulations though on like still just sticking with the program and getting through it despite just some heavy and challenging emotional issues. But I would say, and then like just even having, I think that's part of the draw for me is having the support of the cohort with that you're going through with. And, you know, and when I did my master's program, that was something that I really enjoyed. And so, you know, I like hearing that that's kind of part of this program as well. And I would say, ask you, like, what was your favorite part of the program?
Wow, there's so many. I think the variety, and Teo and I have had some conversations around this. First of all, there's a great variety in the faculty of this program, and they bring wonderful experiences from different areas that I really enjoyed. The faculty, I'll admit, I had being a little bit of a type A. You know, I'm an introvert, but I'm also type A. I'm not sure how that works, but it does. And I got 1 B in the program, and from that instructor, she's one of my favorite. I don't know why, but no, I do why. She's Dr. Brocky is definitely would challenge me. Carol knows, but I love her dry sense of humor, and I really enjoyed the class, even though I struggled a little bit with it. And things that she taught me about. So I had the class with her talks about like research methods, and taught me to not take at face value when someone says, this research says, you know, current research, just picture me sitting on Good Morning America. This would be exactly what she would say. This research says that pregnant women should drink 5 coffees a day. And you're like, what research? Who did it? How many people were surveyed? You know, I would never have thought, I'm like, oh, it's on TV. They're saying the research says it must be good. And she challenged us to say, no, what, I mean, it may be good, but you can't just take it at face value. You got to dig into what is the, you know, the air behind it, who sponsored it, and all of those kinds of things to question. So again, she challenged me, and I really appreciated that. And I'd say my other favorite / scariest part was our international trip this summer. I have not really been outside of the US or North America, we'll say. I've done Canada, Mexico, and the Caribbean and like that. But I was very excited and very terrified at the same time of going to Europe. I've never flown that far. But what an amazing experience. And again, to have that group of people with me, especially on the flight out, I was nervous. I may have had some wine prior to getting on the plane. But as we were settling in, one of my classmates, Kelly, knew how nervous I was. And after we were settled in, as the plane was getting ready to take off, she got up, walked up to my seat, just said, hey, I just want to check on how you're doing. Do you need anything? You know, we're going to be great. And was just there as a coach and friend when I needed it. So that helped a lot. And boy, the things I saw and learned while we were on that trip, wow, it was amazing and very much well worth going. So long answer to your question, Chaz, but hopefully that it gives some insight there.
Thank you. It does. Thank you.
What was your published paper on?
So I was looking at the idea of, and it's very similar to what the TED Talk is on, this concept of, does doing good really do good? And the idea of intentional leadership development alongside community development. You know, there's conversations and books on both things, you know, leadership development, you know, you can fill a whole library with stuff on that. And then this concept of when doing like, there's things like like, how do I call them? Think of it like religious tourism, or giving people what you think they need versus what they actually need. This idea of, if you've ever read books like Toxic Charity, Charity Detox, When Helping Hurts, really intrigued me. And my thought was, and what the paper talks a little about, is there a way to intersect those? To say that as people go through leadership development stages, can you also come alongside with your community and make sure that you're intersecting with them at a level that benefits them, not what you think they need, but by developing that relationship with the community, you can be developing your leaders at the same time. So it proposes that, and like I said, the TED Talk digs into a piece of it as well.
Tami, what you just shared for me brings up a little bit that I want to cycle back through for a second. So the question about, time commitment and bandwidth. I guess for me, I want to start with commitment is the right word. There is no reason to take this on if you're not committed to wanting to get the best out of it for you. The beauty in my experience, I'm only a semester deep into it, but I've been around the program for the last 5 years. I've done, for Tami's, she referred to cohort 2 as the COVID cohort. I was sort of the tech coordinator for some of those residencies. So I've been around the program, and I think one of the single biggest benefits is that it really, number one, the cohort foundation, where I think I have learned as much from the different cohorts that I've had interaction with, new impulses, new ideas, new intersections, new, hey, have you seen this article, or have you thought about it from this perspective? And I would say, no, I don't have that perspective. I'm a cisgender white male, right? And so with that privilege comes that I never had to consider this lens. And that inspiration coming not just from the faculty, but coming from fellow students, not just my own cohort, but other cohorts as well, has been absolutely invaluable. And the reality is that, as Tami referenced, life happens. The program is designed to be something that you can complete over 3 years while working full time. We often commiserate in our, I think cohort 4 has a Slack channel, cohort 5 has a WhatsApp group, whatever works, right? We often commiserate about, oh my goodness, how am I going to tackle this next thing? But in that commiseration often is also just support. I got some messages last night. Hey, Teo, discussion board 2, we should look at this and have you. So it's really been wonderful to have that connection. And there's folks that have had to step out and say, I can't for this next year concentrate on the program, but I'm going to rejoin with the next cohort as I, had the life changes happen to me and figure them out. And rejoined with a different group. And that has been really interesting too, to just see, here is a cohort that had sort of this membership, and now there's a different flavor added. All of that I really have experienced as wonderful, positive things. It is a commitment. It is not something that you can just kind of do on the side. You have to decide that this is what you want to do. But if you do that, I believe the value that you'll get out of it is far beyond some letters behind your name. It is, to me, being uncomfortable, figuring out where are my stretches, what are the things that I didn't quite think that I could get to, but Francis will say, oh, come on, you got to at least try. And being able to, sort of fall on my face every once in a while with a supportive group of colleagues to then learn something. How about not having to do that the next time has been pretty powerful for me. As far as the formatting, again, it is the most of the workload is online. Most professors, and this is not consistent, some of our professors have different teaching styles, but on average, you'll have probably a weekly check-in session with your professor, typically an hour. Then, however the assignment structure is for that particular course, and then you'll have one residency for a course. The way that the structure is that you have the semester is broken down into 6 to 7 week chunks. So right now we are in spring semester session 1. I have one class with one professor that ends, at the end of next month. Then there's a little break, and then you have the second 7-week chunk. And for both of those 7-week chunks, there is a residency where we are in person Friday morning, 8 to 5 through Sunday at 3 p.m. at the BGSU Levis Commons facility in Perrysburg, which is a nice sort of more intimate kind of space rather than being on a huge campus. And we have opportunity. There's, hotels and restaurants. Everything is right there in walking distance to spend time together. Let's see.
I saw the one question in the chat I was going to jump on from Stacy.
Yeah, please.
So as far as if I could go back and do something different. So one of the things, as I talked about some of these shifts and such, that it challenged me too. Another one was I'd like to be involved in lots of little things. And I had too many things. So I was able to, and I wish I would have been able to do this earlier, but it definitely showed me that I needed to do it, to be able to say, all right, you're involved in all these side groups, so you're doing all these things, plus you're trying to help your sorority out and you're doing this. What is it where is your passion? And if it's not in your passion, now's not necessarily the time to do it. So it was hard to, I dropped off a couple of committees at church and, turned the reins over on some stuff with my sorority alumni group. And the same, I was on one of the alumni groups at University of Toledo and had to step away from that. But they're all things I like, but they weren't where my true passion was. And so it helped me really narrow the focus in to say, all right, I've got this little guy in my house, and that's number one. I've got this program, I say that's 1B, and this research because of what it's doing for me as a person, that a focus on, and just start kind of peeling that off. So really about the only outside thing I held on to was, and it aligns with some of what I do, is I'm a youth mentor at our church. So I work with teens, and, it kind of aligns with where my passions are, with helping people in life in that way, coming alongside coaching. And yeah, so I held on to that, and a lot of other things I just had to let go so that I could have the time. I think another real, not that I would do it different, but it was really kind of a helpful factor to me in this. So my youngest son is in a similar area of study. So he graduated, he went to Xavier, bachelor's in psychology and theology, got minor. And then he went back for his master's in industrial and organizational psychology, which has a really nice tie-in with organizational development. And in fact, our first discussion board question in our very first class had something to do with contrast those two fields. So we were in it together, kind of. My whole family knew I was in it. I have different levels of support from the family, but to have that family member that would challenge you a little bit, and I kept talking about going in this program and what have you, and he's like, well, I'll just be a doctor before you. What do you think about that? I'm like, oh, no, you're not. But it was great that we could share in that new way, and as it kind of helped our transition into being adults rather than mom and son. I mean, we still are, but it's different when they're out of college, so that was a really cool thing that has happened during this program too. Other questions that might be out there?
I want to make sure, Rita, you've joined us kind of late. I'm not trying to point that out. That is what it is. But wanted to make sure that you have an opportunity to ask any questions. And then I wanted to maybe attempt answering Whitney's inquiry, sort of like, how can this program benefit my career, whether that's in HR or in academia. Rita, do you have anything that we should cover so that you have questions answered for today? And I'll put the address and location for the residencies into the chat here. If not, I'll make sure that this recording is available to all of you after the fact. I'll send a little follow-up note with the link to the recording. So Rita, that way you can listen to some of the earlier conversation. Whitney, you had sort of posed, like, I'm curious how this program might benefit my career, whether that's in HR or you're considering stepping into academia. I have several colleagues that are coming to the D.ODC with, this is part of what I want to do in my career toward HR. And a lot of them will say things that I'm using what I'm learning in class, like literally the next day, or if it's the residency, like I'm taking this back on Monday and I'm talking about, hey, how can we adjust, refocus with what it is that we have just talked about? I do believe that sometimes it gets fuzzy when we talk about organizational development, organizational behavior, industrial psychology, human resources, like where are those lines? And what I'm finding for me is that it can sometimes be helpful to try to draw those distinctions and say, right, this definitely belongs into this bucket. But the reality is that there's a lot of overlap and cross-pollination. I have probably learned as much about improvisation, which is the topic that I'm looking at, from musician friends as I have from HR professionals. And so I think the applicability of the stuff that you'll be working with in the program, that you'll work on yourself with, that you'll work on in group projects, that you'll work on in terms of research, is applicable definitely in the field of human resources. We also have several colleagues in the program that have gone with their D.ODC degree and are now tenure track faculty at teaching colleges. There's actually a gentleman who was the graduate teaching assistant before I took his role over, who I think had an interview yesterday to accept the full-time position, I hope, for him. He was a retired state trooper, worked in criminal justice for his entire career, had an academic career, obviously got a master's, then came to this program and is now teaching in a criminal justice program. So that definitely is also there. I think it goes back to Tami's point around passion. Like, what is this thing that you want more about? How does your personal passion, how does your personal purpose, some of us call it mission, vision. I think sometimes we get label confusion, and it's a little bit like we know what it is and different people just put different stickers on it. But what is that thing that drives you? I have yet to meet somebody in this program that tells me, oh, I couldn't figure out how what's important to me is applicable in what we're working with. And so that's what I would encourage you to consider. And that might inform an HR career, that might inform a career in academia. For me, it's allowing me a really new, different opportunity to re-engage with some of my musical stuff that I'm doing. And like, how does what I know from there translate into me creating better groups and teams in the organizations that I'm part of and that I get to work with?
I love that. I'll just add on a little bit to what Teo was saying. I think that, first of all, we make change in our corner of the world, no matter how small or how big that may be. You know, I think of how different my parenting style is now with this little guy than when I was with my own sons. You know, so I know that I've learned from that and being intentional. And I love to think that some of the things I learned in the program are helping me right in this little teeny tiny house that we have here in Toledo. And how cool it was, though, to be involved with people in the cohort that are making groundbreaking changes. You know, I think of the work that one of my cohort mates is making as a chief, Chief Efi, and the work that she's doing connecting Louisville and another country. I just lost the name of it off the top of my head, but I mean, that's some amazing work. And I think of Jennifer McCary in our group and some of the work that she's done in diversity and what have you. And yet we all have this shared common bond and can pull from these experiences in ways that benefit each other. And to your point of in the HR field, if there is a field that is going to be changing a lot, I think it's got to be that one because of what is happening not only in technology, but you know, some of the crises that we're having in employment. And you've got can't find enough entry-level employees. And from my job search this summer, there are a lot of mid-level employees that are having trouble finding positions, or so there's a lot going on there. So I would say this would be a great program for someone that would be interested in being in the HR or staying in the HR field.
So I'd like to comment on that question about HR. Brittany, you might just nod your head. Were you considering remaining in HR, or are you considering moving out of HR?
I'm considering moving out of HR. Okay. I'm very passionate about HR. It's ever evolving. That's what I love about it, is every day is different. And every day I go in and it's just like, okay, what's my new mission for the day? Like, what are we going to accomplish? What new are we learning and training and, coaching up with different levels of leadership. But I'm a natural learner. So I've always known that I wanted to do more. And I would like to be able to see more people like myself teaching and in the classroom. And I'm heavily involved with my sorority. And, I always try to get them to like come out and see like the different career paths, because I know when I was in college, I just kind of went for the, like, whatever, I don't know. I didn't have like that guidance. And so I just always thought that that would be something I would eventually want to get into.
Well, that will make my answer short because when I worked in a corporation, the organization development people ran a course that was titled OD for the HR professional. Because if you look at HR, the technical things that you do, you know, about hiring, about all of those things, that's the science. And that's what absorbed all of your time. But what we realized is so much of what we did as OD people were under the umbrella, really, it should have been under the umbrella of HR. So my statement to you is, as an HR person, once you get into OD and learning what it's all about, you will no longer be able to tolerate HR because you realize how it limits the things you could potentially do in terms of being there for the people. So that's what I wanted. And I think having that HR background will help you to be clear about what it is you're going to be interested in because you've seen the whole scope of human resources, taking care of people. So that's it.
I want to take a quick pause and opportunity to say thank you to Tami for being here and sharing. I'm happy to drop her LinkedIn into the chat again. Feel free to seek her out there. She's very responsive, at least to me. So no pressure, Tami, on LinkedIn. But she actually has some weather-related things to attend to. So if she needs to hop off, Tami, thank you so much for being here and sharing. Again, I'll make this recording available if you weren't able to hear from the very top of the hour. I want to sort of, I'm amazed. I mentioned in the chat that you know, it's an international program at this point. So we have folks from Canada, we have German, Ugandan nationals in the program, and Rita was sharing that she actually knows the person that's in my cohort that's a Ugandan national. I think the connectivity of this and so, you know, it's not that all the folks that come into this D.ODC program have some sort of master's in organization development and change or related. We have folks that come from the mental health field. We have folks that come from HR. We have folks that come from engineering. We have a real, to me, incredibly wonderful diversity, again, of these viewpoints and ideas around the things and concepts that we're talking about that for somebody like myself who did get a master's in OD, it's like, well, wait a minute, I never thought of it in that context. What a light bulb moment to consider, you know, this other side of it or this different perspective, this different lens. That really, to me, has been a great value. Francis?
So, Tail, one thing I don't want us to leave this hour without talking about, and as I was listening to Tami, I said, you know, she sets the bar very high. She did all of these things and she's being successful in getting through this program. And I think I would like to hear from anyone involved in the program already. I'd like to hear from Carol, and if Tami is still there, and you. What is it that differentiates people, the people who get into this program, realize it's a lot of work, but somehow they seem to walk right through it, all of it. And I know there are a lot of variables like family support and all of that, but some people seem to have that agility that they don't get stuck in places. They seem to move through it. And I don't know what separates them. And I don't know if you have any insights, either of you, Carol, Tami.
Go ahead, Carol.
I believe that's a wonderful question, Francis, that could be lifelong work to answer. Because I think for each one who gets through, they bring some different things to it. But very few people, in truth, have dropped out. So I think that there's a support system, which is what you said, Francis, that is between the students themselves, as well as the administration and the faculty, that makes this, I believe, move from a cohort, which is any group of people working together or doing something together, to a learning community. And to me, I think that's really the sweet spot. is that when somebody is, as Tami said, going through something difficult, remember what she said about the international trip? And somebody just came to her in the plane? That's not a traditional way of learning. Learning is usually a self-contained activity. And I think by definition, there are a few people who I think don't come because they don't want that. They want to be independent and don't want to be interactive with others and only want to work on their own thing. Those people, it's not a good program for. And I think we've really learned the new cohort that's coming is going to be cohort 6. The answer to that question would be very different for cohort 1 and cohort 5, partially because of what we've learned as a group. I think over time, and Francis and Teo, please correct me if I'm wrong, we've become much more structured as a program. And we're very clear. If you're not willing to spend 15 hours a week, sometimes 20 hours a week, if you can't figure out how to, juggle your schedule, you can't do this as an add-on. And I don't think we were that clear in the beginning. Maybe we didn't even know that. So in the very first residency, people are asked to make a plan. How are you going to work out your personal life and your work life and fit in 20 hours or 15 hours? So I think there are a whole lot of structures that are helpful and people's personalities. Tami said to you she's A-type. I would imagine, Teo, am I right? Almost everybody is A-type on some level.
I have some issue with that typing that we're doing there, but no, I do agree that there's
committed, driven.
Right. And so to me, but that directly connects into, and I think that is consistent for all the folks that I've met in the program, is that all of us that I've yet to meet somebody that didn't have like, this is where this connects to what I really want to do, right? I'm not saying you have to come in with like, I know what my dissertation topic is and I've started the research already. That's not what I'm saying. But like, here's something that grabs me that I think connects with why I want to commit 15 hours a week to being in this program, learning the things that are offered, and then becoming a thought leader in this thing that I'm grabbing for me to say, why am I getting a doctorate? Why am I writing a dissertation? Why am I creating new knowledge? Because this thing matters to me. And the support that I have had from faculty, from administrators, from other cohort mates is to sort of answer that question, like what makes this program different? It's not just the theoretical exercise of what this thing might be, but it is the actual figuring out what can it do? How does it translate into my current job, the areas of influence that I want to establish down the road? And you will be able to step into opportunities to make the stuff tangible and do the practice, right? It's a scholar practitioner program. It is a professional doctorate. It's not academic exercises and theoretical. It is that too, but it's not just the, what is it? It's also the so what? Why does it matter? And it's also the now what? What are you going to do with it? That we get to wrestle with in this program. I do think that sets it apart from other similar programs. I'm happy to talk about that more. We are nearing the top of the hour. If you are specifically interested in, like how does it compare financially? If you have additional questions around, what does this workload look like? I am happy to connect. Other folks in the program are happy to connect. I'm going to throw my email in the chat here for you. Any other burning questions that you want to not have to walk away with not being answered?
So I do have another question. Hopefully it's not too long. So I've done a little bit of research on it, but I was really trying to see what you guys would consider the difference between a PhD program and then this being a D.ODC program.
Right. So it's a, Carol, do you want to take this one?
Well, That's the right question to ask, and we spent a lot of time making that very clear. It's a PhD program is designed, a traditional PhD program, not a PhD program in a working professional sense, is designed for somebody who wants to do research and traditionally get on a tenure track. And this program is without any question designed for professional people who want to add the skills of scholarship. And one of the things that is very significant that I wanted to say, except we were running out of time, was this program is very different than a PhD program, because a PhD program is based on the field and it's prescriptive. And you very often work with the person who has taken you on as a PhD student and doing their research and what's interesting to them. And this is like the flipped classroom. This is the flipped program that the faculty is so excited because many of them, us, are learning about things from the students because the students are working professionals. And I believe I'm making a right statement. I think I'm the only person in the faculty who learned in a professional cohort program. The rest of the faculty is traditional PhD programs. So it is very different. And there are some people who have dropped out because they wanted PhDs. So you have to decide that for yourself. It's a very good question.
If you want to be a full-time researcher and want to contribute in that, what requires a PhD for you to be eligible to step into those roles, then we should have a conversation. Does it make sense for you to consider this program? But if you want to add practical skill sets and you want to, again, to me, it comes back to like, I have this thing that I want to know more about, then this is the right place to dig deeper into that with the support and the context of the program and the amazing faculty and guest speakers and executives and residents and support staff that you'll come across. We are at the top of the hour, actually 1 minute past. I am grateful for your time with us today. Again, this recording will be shared with you as soon as I can get it uploaded and processed. Please do feel free to reach out. The website is bgsu.edu/DODC. The 4 letters that would be after your name should you pursue this program is also the website at BGSU that will get you the program information. There's an email link there, or please feel free to use ctford@bgsu.edu to ask any additional questions that you might have. Again, Tami, thank you. Carol and Francis, I appreciate you being here. Have a wonderful and hopefully warm rest of your Thursday.